Jai Hind, dear students. Once again, welcome to your mathematics class. From last few days, we all were studying about the 8th chapter of your NCERT syllabus, that is Introduction to Trigonometry. In that chapter, we have discussed about the trigonometric ratios, how were they defined, then the relation between those trigonometric ratios, and also we have discussed some of the trigonometric identities. As discussed in the previous chapter, we all have said that there is a lot of use of trigonometry in our practical life also. So to understand how we are going to use those trigonometric ratio or simply trigonometry and its properties in our practical life, here the next, that is the 9th chapter of your NCERT syllabus contains some of the applications of trigonometry. We are not going to study all aspects of the use of trigonometry in this chapter. So we restrict ourselves to find out a height or a distance of a particular object from a certain point. As in the beginning of the last chapter, we have discussed that if I have to find out height of a particular building without actually measuring its height, how can we do so? So in this chapter, we will discuss how this can be done with the help of trigonometry. Before starting with the practical problems based upon the chapter, we will discuss few important terms which we are going to use very frequently in this chapter. So we will discuss that in first, and then after we will start with the problem solving. So let us begin with the terminologies which are associated with this particular chapter. So now suppose this is a height, and if someone is standing or from a particular point on the ground, if I have to find out the height of this tree without actually seeing or without actually measuring its height, then what are the things to be remembered? One thing, that in this particular chapter, until and unless mentioned, we always consider that whatever thing is taken into consideration is always standing perpendicular to the ground. So none of the building will like the leaning tower of the Pisa. It will always be perpendicular to the ground. Even if a pole is given, even if a tree is given, we always consider them that they are perpendicular to the ground. And the ground is completely plain. So these are the few assumptions which we are considering before starting with the chapter. Whereas if in the question something special is mentioned, we will be considering that, and accordingly we will solve the question. So suppose if I want to find out the height of this, then what are the things we should know and how are they defined and how are they being named? So first of all, we need to find this. So for this, you can consider two things also. Like at the top of the tree, suppose a person is sitting and seeing a point on the ground, or from the ground, from a particular point, a person is seeing the top of the tree. So in that case, what are the things happens? Like suppose this is the point, suppose this is the point where, from where a person is seeing the top of the tree. So the line which join this point to the base of the tree is called the horizontal level. and this is what we have to find is the height of the tree. Now if we join the point from where the person was observing to the point what the person was observing, then this particular line is known as line of sight. Doesn't matter whether you are at the bottom and seeing at the top, or someone is sitting here and seeing an object which is placed over here. In both the cases, if you join them like this point to this point, it is always called the line of sight. So these are the few terms which we say. This is the horizontal level. Even if you are at a certain height from the ground level, we will draw this line segment parallel to the ground. You will be clear about it when we have certain questions solved. Then, as I said, this is known as line of sight. Now, suppose you are viewing something from the bottom to the top. Like if you are viewing something from this point, and means the observer is here and the object is placed at a certain height, then the angle which is formed between the line of sight and horizontal level is known as angle of elevation. Elevation is something which is always take you up. Elevated means something is going up. So from the bottom, if you are seeing something which is above the height than you, that is it is something which is elevated, then the angle found between line of sight and the horizontal level is known as angle of elevation. I hope this is clear. Now what if you are sitting on the top of a particular object and viewing an object which is placed at the bottom of it? Means if the person is sitting here and viewing an object which is present here, in that case the place where the observer is present, at that place we will draw a line segment like this or a ray which is parallel to this horizontal level, and then the angle which is formed between this line or the ray which we have drawn and the line of sight is known as angle of depression. When you are going down, you are being depressed. So that is why it is named as angle of depression. And obviously the angle of elevation and angle of depression are the alternate angles, and we have drawn this line segment parallel to the horizontal level, so they are equal. But remember, whenever in the question it is written that it is the angle of elevation, you need to show angle of elevation in this way. If it says that it is the angle of depression, you need to draw this line segment and you need to form this angle or make this angle and show that this is the angle of depression. And after that you will say that suppose if this angle is theta, then this angle will also come as theta because they are alternate angles. But you need to mention whether it is angle of elevation or angle of depression. Sometimes in the case of angle of depression, people write it as angle of elevation only. And if you write that, the teachers will deduct your marks, surely deduct your marks. So from this we got certain definitions. Let us take a look of those definitions quickly. So the first one is the line of sight. What is the line of sight? It is the line that is drawn from the eye of an observer to the point in the object viewed by the observer. This is what is the line of sight if someone asks the definition. Then angle of elevation. It is the angle between the horizontal line of sight and the line of sight up to an object. As I said, horizontal level and line of sight, the angle between them is known as angle of elevation. And then we have the third one, that is angle of depression. It is a point on the object being viewed is the angle formed by the line of sight with the horizontal when the point is below the horizontal level. So see, if you are at a certain height, like if you are at this point, and in that case this is the horizontal level. If this is the horizontal level, then line of sight is below the horizontal level. In that case we always write it as angle of depression. Whereas in this case the line of sight was above the horizontal level, so in that case it is angle of elevation. Always remember the difference between these two and do mention as shown here if there is any question asking for elevation or depression. So with these terminologies clear to you all, we all are now ready to solve the problems from the exercise. Also remember that in this chapter we are going to use the properties which we have discussed in the previous chapter, that is in the introduction to the trigonometry. Specifically we will use the values of trigonometric ratios for some specific angles like 30, 45, 60. Most probably we will be using these three only. If any particular angle is asked, they will give you values of that. Usually they won't ask. So you need to remember those values of the trigonometric ratios for those specific angles. Also you should know that what is the relationship between the angle and the sides, like what is sine theta, what is cos theta in terms of the sides of a right angle triangle. So most probably we are going to use these two things, and in few of the question we will be using the trigonometric identities as well. So with this, let us begin with the first question of your NCERT book, that is exercise 9.1, and the first question says a circus artist is climbing a 20-meter long rope which is tightly stretched and tied from the top of a vertical pole to the ground. We need to find out the height of the pole if the angle made by the rope with the ground level is 30 degree. Now to solve any question of this application of trigonometry, you need to follow certain steps. First, if the diagram is not given, you need to draw the correct diagram labeling everything. Once you have drawn the labeled diagram, you need to define that diagram also. Remember this to be done in the case when the diagram is not given. That what represents the height of the building, what represents the length of the rope, what is the angle of elevation, whatever the things are given, you need to define as you have labeled it in the diagram. If the diagram is given, then not necessarily you have to write all these things, but still you need to mention that where is the rope, where is the height, where is the distance, whatever it is. So in this question already the diagram is given in NCERT book, and the diagram is this. It says that there is a climbing rope whose one end is attached at the top of the pole. So one end is over here, another end is tied to the base, that means here. Length of the rope is given as 20 meter, and it is given that it is tied, that there is no lag in between them, so it is completely straight. Also the angle between the ground, that is horizontal level, and this, that is the line of sight. Now see, one end is here, another is here. So if angle is between rope and ground, so this is rope and this is ground level. So here the angle is 30 degree. So angle of elevation is 30 degree here. We need to find out the height of the pole. So basically we need to find out AB. While drawing the diagram, once you have done all this, the second step is find out what is given, what to calculate. Once you see what is given, what you have to find, then find out which trigonometric ratio gives a relationship between them. So like if I'll start here, AC is the rope, angle ACB is 30 degree. So in a right angle triangle ABC, we need to find AB and AC, that is hypotenuse, is given. We need to find perpendicular. So the relationship between perpendicular and hypotenuse is given by sine theta. So we write sine 30 degree, for theta it is 30 degree, which is equals to perpendicular by hypotenuse. So it will be AB upon AC. So that's what we have written here. Now we know that the value of sine 30 degree is 1 by 2. So we replace sine 30 degree by 1 by 2. We need to find out the value of AB. So we will keep AB as AB, or if you wish you can write it as X. If you are writing X, you need to mention in the question let AB is equals to X. And then the length of AC is given as 20 meters. So we replace AC by 20 meters. Once we do that, we will get 1 by 2 is equals to AB by 20. We do the cross multiplication, or we simply shift this 20 to the left hand side, which gives AB is equals to 1 by 2 into 20, or 20 by 2, that is equals to 10 meter, which means that the height of the pole is 10 meter. So this is how we are going to use the trigonometry in finding out the height and the distances of a particular right angle triangle in this particular chapter. With this, we come to the end of the today's class. We will be discussing few more questions of this exercise of this chapter in the upcoming classes. You all also try to solve the remaining questions. So we'll meet in the next class. Till then, happy learning. Jai Hind.